Howdy, folks. This is Amol Vaidya, also known as Big Edie. It's been a couple weeks. Sorry about that. I am getting a little bit of an echo. So, got that fixed. Anyway, it's been a couple of weeks since we streamed last. Went on vacation for Thanksgiving to Texas, and it was a nice vacation for us. Hopefully, everybody else had a nice vacation. We did manage to get hit by a tornado during our vacation. That was an interesting time. But my sister-in-law's house took some damage. My car took some damage. But other than that, it was great. Ate a lot, gained a little bit of weight. But anyway, that was what I've been up to for the last couple of weeks. Hopefully, you guys had a good vacation if you celebrate Thanksgiving, or just have had a good couple of weeks. We will pick back up where we were last time. So just to kind of recap what we've done so far, we've been working on a project that looks at a region or a buffer and highlights the rare words in that region or buffer. And then the goal is eventually to submit it to MELPA. Submitting to MELPA was sort of one of my goals in doing this series. I have always kind of avoided doing that just because we'll probably look at the MELPA documentation a little bit and how to contribute. It feels a little overwhelming to me. I mean, there's packages that you have to download to make sure that it's formatted correctly and all those things. So it seems pretty involved, but doing this series was sort of a way for me to set aside some time to make sure I actually submit to MELPA. So I've got a lot of eLisp code that I've written that just sort of sits around and goes nowhere. I mean, I use it, but I mean, maybe some other people have some use for it as well. And so the idea here is really to kind of walk through the process of going to MELPA, and building this project was sort of just something that I could build from start to finish and submit to MELPA. It's something I've wanted to do for a while, just because on Grammarly they have a feature that kind of looks at how how you stand against everybody else in your writing in terms of your rare word usage. So that was sort of an enigmatic feature of Grammarly to me, and so I kind of wanted to see what my own rare words were. So that was the motivation behind creating this. We basically had the code done for this last time. However, when we tried to test it out, it did not work. So the goal for today is going to be to debug any of the issues that we had in the code last time, and then B, we are going to try and start doing any modifications, such as adding documentation strings, adding the boilerplate above, adding any licensing, just going through the MELPA contribution documentation and seeing how we need to modify our code to get it into a format that MELPA would accept. So those will be the two things today. When I first started this stream, or when I first started this series, rather, I had anticipated only being 2 streams, like one stream to get it all coded up and another one to read through the documentation to submit to MELPA. Unfortunately, it's been a lot longer. I still think we're probably at least 2 streams away from actually submitting. But all right, let's get started. So if we go back to where we were last time, we were looking at this blog post made by Glenneth, one of a co-member in the System Crafters community. We were looking at one of his blog posts, and we were trying to use this rare words highlight function that we wrote, which is basically the main way to interact with this package. So if you look at rare words highlight, what we get is this symbol value as variable as void, min. So somewhere in our code, we are using the word min, and we haven't defined it, or it's not recognizing it for some reason. So let's go back to the code and let's look for words called min. Okay, so here it's definitely defined. Let's see where else it might be. Okay, so if you look at this line right here, it looks like we're using min and max here, and we don't really define it. Actually, before we start, like, since it has been a couple of weeks, I think it would be good to kind of just go through the code real quick. Just to kind of, for myself, to kind of get my bearings again, because it's been a couple of weeks since I really looked at it. And hey, how's it going? Nice to see you again, Glenneth. So yeah, anyway, so let's go through the code and just kind of get our bearing on where we were again. So we started with creating a customization group called rare words. That's where all of our user definable variables are going to be. Hey, no problem. I'm just glad to have you here. So thanks for being here, Glenneth. But anyway, so we created this custom group for our rare words customization variables, and we had a few variables. So this first one, it allows us to define what common words are. So what this is going to do is it's going to look at the first 2,500 most common words in the English language, and it's going to consider them common based on the value of this variable. And this next variable that we have here is going to look at anything that is less frequent than 4,510 and is going to consider those rare. So between 2,500 and 4,510, we have a third category that we define as semi-common, but these are sort of the two variables that define the thresholds for that. We have this SQLite database that we use to store basically an English dictionary and the rankings of the frequency rankings of words. We have this rare words semi-common word face. So all semi-common words are going to be using this warning face. That's another user definable function. We have rare word face, which is the face we use for rare words, and I've sort of defaulted that to error. We have the definition of what a word is, and we're using a regular expression to do that. The user can also customize that if they'd like. Finally, we have actually those are all the customizable variables we have. We have some other variables that we use. We have this rare words overlay list. And so any overlay we add to a buffer, we are going to also add it to this list. This is just an easy way to keep track of all the overlays we're using so we can kill them later when we need to. We have rare words kill highlights. This is one of the ways that I expect our users to interact with this package. Basically, after we highlight a buffer or region, we need a way to kill all the highlights. This is going to allow them to do that. This rare word get word frequency package, what it does is it goes out to the SQLite database that we talked about earlier. It's going to go out there and it's going to find or it's basically going to take a list of words and it's going to find the rankings of each of those words. And then finally, this is sort of just a helper function we had to search through our buffer or region. And then these two are also helper functions. This top one up here, this rare words get next word, it just goes one word. And this rare words get words in region or buffer uses that function down here. You can see. Uses that function over here, and it just goes through the region or buffer and collects basically all the words in that region or buffer, eventually to pass it to this get word frequency function. And then finally, we have the last helper function here, which is the make overlay function, which will help us just make an overlay based on whether it's a rare word or a semi-common word. And then this is sort of the main function here, this rare words highlight. What it does so far is it's going to go through your buffer or region, and it's going to go through it twice. At first, what it's going to do is it's going to get all the rare words, it's going to get all the words in the buffer or region, and then it's going to send those out to the SQLite database. It's going to figure out what the rankings are for each of those. And then finally, we go through it a second time and then actually make the overlays when we go through it our second time. So that's sort of the general idea of this. let's go ahead and start figuring out what this min and max issue is. And here was where we were looking at, this make overlay function. And it looks like instead of min and max, I don't know why I used min and max here because I'm not actually passing min and max to this function. I think what I need is to look at, we're using this function called research forward, which is it searches forward by that regular expression that we talked about earlier. And I think what we can do is use these two functions. Anytime that research forward function is used, it sets variables for the beginning and end of the match. And those variables are accessible through a match beginning and match end and functions. Those are both functions. So I think what we need to do is use those here. I think the I think the way you do it is match beginning 0. Let me just check here. Match beginning. Sub x is a number, specifies the parenthesized sub expression in the last regular expression for which to return the start position. Specifies the parenthesized sub expression. Value is nil if sub expression didn't match. Sub expression 0 means the entire text. Yeah, I think we need 0. So match beginning 0, and then we also want match end 0. And I think, shoot, I messed up the parentheses somewhere. So we want match beginning 0, match end 0. Let's delete min and max. And now our parentheses should be balanced, and they are. So let's go back to that glennet buffer and try again. Do rare words highlight. Wrong number of arguments, number or marker p nil. Okay, I'm not sure what that means. I did look at this over the break a little bit, and so let me pull up my notes on it. Yeah, okay. So I think what's happening here is, if we go over here, if we look at the end of this function, right, it's going to say while the point is less than highlight zone max, and it's going to continue going forward until we hit that highlight zone max, right? And it's going to use this rare words get next word function to do that. But what if we are at a point where we are not at the highlight zone max and we invoke this rare words get next word function? I think that error that we just saw is caused by that. So let's fix this up a little bit. So we will say, instead of this, we will say, let's add something. We'll say if there's a word, then we will say set q word downcase word. And otherwise, we will make it go to highlight zone max. And I think that will fix it. Let's take this out. Let's make sure it's still balanced. Whoops. And it is still balanced. So let's try it now. Whoops. Let's go back to the glennet buffer, and it looks like actually it did. Yeah, it looks like it did actually start doing the highlighting. You can see that development and evolution were both marked as as semi-common words, or these rare words. I can't remember which is which, but these are both marked, which means it's doing something, which is good. So let's kill the highlights and let's try it again. And we're still getting that issue. So let's see what's going on. Sorry. All right, so I think we will do what we normally do, which is use edebug to step through this function. And let's do that. So I went ahead and instrumented it. We will call rare-words scale highlights, and then we'll call rare-words highlight again. And we will start going through it line by line. And I think actually we don't want to go through and, well, okay. Okay, so we have word frequencies. I don't want to go through this whole thing. So we will put a breakpoint here. We'll go to the breakpoint, continue going. Okay, so it did that first word just fine. And we're just sort of stepping through it to see where it's erroring off. So those are both warnings, which means that that is a semi-common word. Let's see. So if we find, okay, so here's one where it's erroring off. So for whatever reason, it's erroring off on the word embracing, right? So let's go back there and do this one more time. We will just do these two words this time. And we'll say rare words highlight. And why? Okay, so embracing is not a word it likes. A little confused. Let's go back to the code. So I think I want to step through it one more time. I want to set up a breakpoint right there. So let's do that. I don't know why it's not stepping through it. Maybe I need to quit or something. Let's try it again. No, it's just not doing it. I don't know why. I struggle with edebug sometimes. I'm not sure why it's not stepping through it, but all right. So I think, what's wrong? Wrong buffer. I think what we need here is, if I recall correctly, there was an issue with if the word was not in the dictionary, then it did not know what to do. Yeah, let's just try. Let me just remove the instrumentation on this and then try it again. Hopefully it'll work this time, because I do need to know when it was where it's erroring off. Okay. So I want to go all the way to here. We'll have it go. So for evolution, it is nil. That doesn't make sense. Why would it be nil for evolution? Huh, this time it's erroring off at evolution. So maybe it's evolution that's causing problems. I'm a bit confused. I know I looked at this earlier, but I just yeah, I don't know. Why would evolution not be there? Let's just run it all the way through. So for development, down cases has no problem finding development. Okay. So we go through that. Ah, damn, I skipped too much. Re-instrument. Back here, we will kill all highlights and start again. Nope, it didn't. I don't know why. It does that to me sometimes. Let's kill highlights, start again. Good. It didn't go to the breakpoint. Man, I really find edebug frustrating. I struggle to understand how it works, but okay. Quit, go to one more time. Let's start it. We will go set the breakpoint here. Maybe I forgot to set the breakpoint. That's why. We'll go to the breakpoint. And maybe I need to go to the next one to set the breakpoint. I don't know. Okay. Let's set the breakpoint down here. Okay, so now it's doing what it's supposed to. Let's go to evolution. Let's go through evolution. So it finds it, downcases it. It gets a frequency for it this time, and it correctly highlights it. Okay, so now let's go to embracing. Okay, so it's not at the highlight zone max. It gets embracing as the word, downcases it. And it says get hash. Word is embracing. Word frequency hash is the hash table we have that we're looking up in. So get hash does not have the word embracing in there. And let's see why that is. Let's look at our actual database. So if we open up our SQLite database, which is words.db, we can select, we can look for that word to see if it's actually in there or not. So the table we're going to be looking for is dictionary. And let me see what the SQLite database actually looks like, because I don't remember off the top of my head just sort of the format of it. So it looks like there's a table named dictionary. Okay, and it's got columns word and rank. So we will say select select word. We'll just say select star from dictionary where word equals embracing. And let's see what comes up. So it does have embracing in there, which means that it's not in our hash table. And I'm confused as to why it's not in our hash table then. Let's look at the code again, and we will look at this top part of the word. We'll look at the top part of this this function now to see where that hash table is created to see why we're not actually getting that word in the hash table like I would expect. Okay. So let's go back to our gleneth buffer. We will start one more time. Oh. I see. Let's just start over with edebug. Remove the instrumentation, go back. Sorry guys, this is kind of annoying, but I've got to figure out why it's not working here. So when I say guys, it might just be Gleneth, but sorry, this is not the not going as smoothly as I thought it would, but we'll get this figured out at some point. So let's re-instrument it and go back to that buffer, kill all highlights, and start it again. This time we will look for the top part. Then let's step into this function, this rare-words get words in region or buffer. Let's see. Get word frequency. Can we make this bigger? Let's see, is no, it just ends there. So I know in edebug there is a way to evaluate a variable in the middle of execution. So I'm going to pull up the help on edebug. Edebug. So using edebug, I'm just looking for how to evaluate stuff in the middle. You type space once. Okay, yeah, I know how to instrument execution modes. How do I step into a function? Next, stop at the next point encountered after an expression. Okay, so jumping. I is for step into the function or macro called by the form after point. I'm pretty sure there's a way to call E. So if I hit E, that allows me to evaluate an expression. Okay, so let's try that. So let's look at word list. And it looks like it's just going backwards. So Um, like a way to look at the reverse of a list. Is there like a reverse word list? Yeah, so it's got embracing in there. So what if, all right, let's just go ahead and let it create the hash table. Oh, I don't want to step through all of that. Okay. Let's create a breakpoint here, and we'll just go to the breakpoint. And let's look at the hash table here. We'll say get hash embracing word frequency hash and see if it's in there or not. And it's not in there. Why would it not be in there? So we make the hash by saying put hash word frequency. What is X? Okay, X is the word frequency. Okay, what is word frequency then? That's that. Okay. And let's do reverse word frequency and see if embracing is actually in there. It's not quite in the order I was expecting. I'm curious. Okay. So anyway, it shouldn't matter. I think this should still be able to handle it even if embracing isn't in the hash table. So let's figure out what it's doing when a word is not in the hash table, because it should still be able to handle that situation. So it is assuming, I think over here, it's sort of just assuming that that word will be in the hash. So I think hash table, I think what we need to do is sort of create a condition on what to do if that word is not in the hash table. So I think what I want to do is take this out here and say let frequency, whoops. I want to put this up here. And then take this out. Gotta take this whole thing out. Yeah, I think I can take this whole thing out. And say, we will only call this rare words make overlay function when frequency is defined. I think we need another one of these, maybe. Oh, this is going to be annoying to try and figure out if I have everything done the way it's supposed to be. So rare words make overlay. Okay. Well, okay, let's line this up first. Go up here, line everything up. And when frequency, rare words make overlay. So when frequency, rare words make overlay. Condition here. Okay. This kills that. Okay, this matches with the condition with the rare words make overlay function. Is that the main function here? No, I do need another one. Just make this. Let me just make this full screen for a second. Okay, yeah. Okay, let's evaluate and try it now. No, it's still causing problems. Rare words, wrong type argument. Rare? Um, hmm. Why does it not like rare? That's weird. Oh. Struggling here. Glenn, if you have any ideas on what I'm doing wrong, please let me know. Otherwise, we are maybe stuck for a little bit longer than I hoped. So pass semi-common on rare when it's rare. So let's go up here. Rare words make overlay. If it's semi-common or if it's rare. That should work. I do think at least we're getting a different error now, so we're making progress. That's a good thing. Let's try edebug again. Let's figure out where the error is happening. Didn't do anything. Now it's not doing anything. That's not good. Okay, there we go. Okay, so it's enhanced that it's breaking. Okay, we got evolution. Wrong type argument, number marker P, rare. I'm a little confused. All right, let's remove the instrumentation of this one. Go back here and try it. Do it in the Gleneth buffer. All right. Let's set up some breakpoints so we're not jumping through everything. We'll go to that breakpoint. All right, now we're at the word enhanced. Let's go through it. So it does come up with it considers enhanced a rare word. So frequency is that. Correctly? No. Okay. Ah, I see what the issue is here. When it's rare, I've got the parentheses in the wrong spot. Annoying error. What about now? Will it work? Will it work? Hopefully. Yay. Okay. Looks like it's actually working now. So we have a working package. And I think this looks nice. We have, um, development is well, it did mark development as a semi-common word. Evolution is a semi-common word. Min apparently is a rare word. I guess min is not used very much. I know it means minimum, but I guess it doesn't recognize it as that. Productivity, rare, detailed. Surprised that detailed is a rare word. Centered, undergone. Yeah, this looks good. I think this is a good looking package. Hey, yeah, thanks. It was pretty annoying, dumb mistake, but yeah, we spent unfortunately 40 minutes fixing it, but we got it. We got the package working. So glad it's done. Okay, so I think at least let's start looking at how to submit it to MELPA now that we have this done. So if I run it again, will it work? Cool. Let's look at something else, right? Let's go to Qt browser and let's look at another one of your posts. Let's look at this Beyond Theory one. And we will cut and paste. And we will call this come on. We will call this, nope. Glennet 2. Oh, come on. I sworn I had it copied, but apparently not. Open Qt browser back up. .404. We'll just copy some of it. We don't need the whole thing. Copy. And paste. There we go. Rare words highlight. Okay, cool. It works here too. No errors. I think it's looking fine. If errors pop up, you guys can let me know and we'll fix it. But I think it's looking fine. Let's pull up the MELPA documentation. So if we go to MELPA, we cannot type. If we go to MELPA, there is this contributing.org document, which you can hit up here. And it will tell you how to actually contribute. So MELPA consists of recipes. So in order to submit to MELPA, we're going to have to eventually make a recipe that describes which repository to look in to look for our package and the instructions, I guess, to download and install it. What to know before submitting a recipe: expect feedback. 1 recipe per pull request. Okay, reasonably innovative packages. I did take a look at MELPA. I didn't find anything that looks like what we are working on. So this rare words package seems to be unique. It is in GitHub, so I have it in a software configuration management system. Reasonably active maintainer. I will try to be reasonably active. Making your package ready for inclusion. I think this is probably what we want. So we want to follow the Emacs Lisp conventions and the Emacs Lisp style guide. So let's look at those. Oh boy. Yeah, and this is why I've always been turned off of submitting to MELPA, because it just seems like a lot to do. Let's go through this really quickly. Emacs Lisp coding conventions. You know what? Let's actually look at this in Emacs. Wrong Emacs. Go to the top level, appendix. We'll go to pips. Okay, we'll go to coding conventions. Here are the conventions you should follow. You should choose a short word to distinguish your program from other Lisp programs. The name of all global symbols in your program, variables, constants, functions should begin with that chosen prefix. All right, that's fine. So I'm using rare words. Include a command or command enable and disable the feature or to invoke it. That's fine. I'm not going to change any editing behavior. What else? Occasionally for a command intended for users to use, it is more convenient if some words come before the package name. I don't care. We recommend enabling lexical binding in new code. So I know that's okay. So we need to add this. Practice dialect selection means the first line in Emacs Lisp file looks like this. So let's copy that. We will paste that into our rare words project. Okay, let's go back to the help file. Put a call to provide at the end of each separate Lisp file. Okay, so we will say, I think all we have to do is provide rare words. So yeah. The comment.el file contains the following top-level expression. This adds comment to the global features list so that require comment will henceforth know that nothing needs to be done. Okay, the expression require comment loads the file comment.el if it has not yet been loaded. Features are normally named after the file that provides them, so that require need not be given the file name. Know that it is important that the require statement be outside the body of the let, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I'm just going to copy this. And put it at the bottom here. And instead of comment, I'll say rare words. Okay, so back to our info file. If a file requires certain other Lisp programs be loaded beforehand, then the comment at the beginning of the file should say so. Also use require to make sure they are loaded. Then the comments at the beginning of the file should say so. Okay. So I don't see anything over here about comments at the beginning of a file. So we'll come back to that. I'll make a note for myself. Did I ever require anything in here? I guess not. Surprised, actually. I thought that the SQLite database function needed a require statement, but I guess not. I guess that's just loaded by default in Emacs. So I don't need any require statements. So maybe I don't actually need, I can safely ignore anything about needing a top level comment there. Where are we? We're still in features. If a file uses foo, uses a macro, I'm not using any macros. Avoid loading additional libraries unless they are really needed. If you use Common Lisp, I'm not using Common Lisp. Not defining a major or minor mode. If the purpose of function is to tell you whether a certain condition is true, nope. If the purpose of variable is to store a single function, I'm not doing that either. Use unload feature will undo the changes usually done by loading a feature, or if loading feature does something unusual or more complex. Okay, I don't think I need that. It is a bad idea to define aliases for Emacs primitives. Don't need that. Package needs to define an alias or a new function for compatibility. Name it with the package prefix. I think I've already stuck to that. Redefining or advising Emacs primitives. I haven't done anything with that. Not advising anything else in another package. not using hooks or eval after load, not replacing any standard functions. Constructs to define a function or variable should be macros. Okay, I don't think I've done that. In some other systems where there's a convention of choosing a variable that begins or ends, we don't do that. Nothing beginning or ending with star. I'm not doing anything other than the UTF, so I can ignore this one. Whoops. Indent the file using the default indentation parameters. Don't make a habit of putting close parentheses on lines by themselves. Please put a copyright notice and copying permissions notice on the file if you distribute copies. See library headers. Okay, this is useful. Emacs has conventions. Section explains. Okay, so the description should be contained in one line. If the file needs to set more variables in the specification, add it after lexical binding. If this would make the first line too long, use the local variables. Okay. The copyright notice usually lists your name if you wrote the file. If you have an employer, do not say the copyright holder is the Free Software Foundation. For more information on the form of copyright. Okay, so after the copyright notice comes several header comments. I wish it would have a complete header here on as far as the licensing. So I want it actually like this. We'll go back to rare words. We'll replace that first line. So we will say rare-words.el. And we will say highlight your rare words. All right, I think I can get rid of this line. Go back to the info. Had a copyright notice, I guess. So that, do I need a copyright notice? I guess I'll add it. And I don't know why I would need a range here. I'll just write 2025. I'll say me. Back here. And then I'll go ahead and just copy this whole thing. Let's say oops, probably should have author information there, right? Yeah. Somehow that author got deleted. Say Amol Vadya. We'll say my email address here. I don't think, do I need a maintainer? If I have the author, do I need a maintainer? The header is the same if it lists the person who currently maintains the file. If there is no maintainer header, the author is presumed to be the maintainer. So good enough for me. And just delete that. And we'll say created today. We'll say for December 2025. Go back here. And then we can figure this part out, I think maybe a little bit later. Let's go back to the to here. For variables holding a file or directory, avoid using path. I don't need anything like there. Key bindings, I don't do anything with key bindings, so I'm going to skip that. Programming tips. Don't call functions that set the mark. I haven't done anything like that. Use lists rather than vectors. The recommended way to show a message. I'm not doing any of that. When you encounter an error condition, call the function error. I don't think I have anything where I explicitly need to call an error, so I'm going to skip that. An error message should start with a capital letter, but should not end with a period or other punctuation. Good enough for me. A question asked. A question asked in the mini buffer. Don't do anything. When you mention a default value, again, don't have any mini buffer prompts. In interactive, if you use a Lisp expression to produce a list of arguments, don't try to provide the correct default values for region or position arguments. Instead, provide nil for those. Again, I think I can skip that. I'm not doing anything like that. Many commands that take a long time to execute display a message. Okay, I don't think I have that, although maybe if we're working with an exceptionally long buffer, we might want to add that to the main function. I'm not sure how big of a function that would really need to be, or how big of a buffer that would really need to be, but I'll skip that for now. Try to avoid using recursive edits. I haven't done that. Compiled code, I'm just going to skip this. I don't care. Avoiding compiler warnings, don't care. Okay, tips for documentation string. This is probably useful. And I'm going to keep this up. And I will bring up a rare words. We'll go through it as we'll edit the documentation as we go through this. Every command, function, or variable intended for users to know about should have a documentation string. An internal variable or subroutine of a Lisp program might as well have a documentation string. Okay. Format the documentation string so that it fits in an Emacs window on an 80-column screen. All right, we can do that. You can fill the text if that looks good. Emacs Lisp mode fills documentation strings to the width specified by Emacs Lisp docstring fill column. So let's look at that. 72. I think that's fine. It's less than 80, so good enough for me. The first line of the documentation string should consist of one or two complete sentences that stand on their own as a summary. Okay. MX apropos displays just the first line, and if that line's contents don't stand on its own, the result looks bad. Okay, so I guess we need the old school Twitter version of function definitions. And I think probably we'll pick that up next time, given that it's getting close to 1 a.m. So I think I'll call it a night for today. But next time we'll start fixing up our documentation strings. And I'm hoping that we get everything done next time, going through all the stuff that the configuration.org file mentions on the MELPA GitHub. So I'm hoping we can get through all of that, go through all of its suggestions, and then actually create a recipe and submit a recipe to MELPA next time. And in fact, I think I'll guarantee that we get it done next time. I'll just go as long as I have to get it done, because this has gone on way too long. Like, I was really thinking this would be maybe a 4-hour project, not a 7 or 8 hour project. So, hey, thanks for sticking with me, Glenn. And if anybody else is here, thanks for hanging out. And I will see you guys next time. Take it easy.